Okay, so we're going to start in a moment. Just send everybody in. Whoever has a cell phone that's hooked up to Facebook, this is broadcast live through Never Again Canada. So if you can get on Facebook, please share it.
Inside, please.
Lots of stuff we're going to be talking about. If you haven't eaten anything yet, go out and grab something from the barbecue. No problem.
Hey, get out of my way, man.
It's all I need. Just started right on his birthday.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Everybody get a seat. Okay, so this is being broadcast again through Never Again Canada. So if you're hooked up to Facebook, please share it with your friends, your associates, so we'll reach a wider audience. We do reach thousands of people through Facebook Live. More people coming in, okay. Yeah, so it's we'll give it another minute. Hey, Nar. Good to see you. Good.
I'll go up, okay?
Yeah, just
Hey guys, we're about to hear one today.
I mean, you, that's one for me. I'm one that so that's fine.
Mayor, they're gonna go there and eat and do whatever they're gonna do, so
Okay.
start anyway.
okay. Just okay. Can you start sharing this? Okay, perfect. It's on Never Again Canada. Okay, welcome everyone. Good to see everyone. It's today was a gorgeous day. It was an eclipse, and people are saying it's historic. And I think the events that's occurring recently are historic. Everyone, I'm sure, is well acquainted to the best of their capability with what took place just over a week ago in Charlottesville. So we're going to be speaking about that. And when you have questions or comments also, please feel free. So we're going to be talking about what happened in Charlottesville, how I see threats affecting the Jewish people, and there are incredible threats and issues about allies, who friends are, how to determine. We're going to be talking about that today. In Charlottesville, there was a rally, and there was some sickening displays there of swastika flags. And to see the swastika flag paraded like that with enough people, and to hear chants, anti-Semitic chants against Jews. Jews will not replace us. It was a shocking moment for the Jewish community in North America to watch that. And also, there was, after that event took place, with all the violence and everything that happened there, there was an Israeli reporter who interviewed through Skype, a live interview with one of the white supremacist leaders, Richard Spencer. And at first my gut reaction was, why is he giving him a platform? But then after the next day I rethought it and I thought, well, he got him to actually open up and be very clear what he thinks about Jews and others. Richard Spencer was extremely clear. He was asked about the anti-Jewish chants, the anti-Semitic chants that took place in Charlottesville. And he said, well, number one, we believe in free speech, and free speech should reign everywhere, and therefore if you want to say kill Jews and all that, then you should relax. But after that, he went on and he said, the Jewish people are overrepresented in many fields. Now that's something that stood out to me in the interview. Because this idea of overrepresentation is something that is not new. I've been involved with the JDL since, I think, 1978, off and on. And in the 80s, I spent a great deal of time hunting Nazi war criminals, as well as neo-Nazis, but Nazi war criminals. And one particular war criminal that we targeted, he was tried in absentia. He was in the Hlinka Slovak People's Party. He was the Secretary General, Joseph Kirschbaum. He lived in Willowdale. He lived Bayview and Finch area. Now, Joseph Kirschbaum had a son called Stefan Kirschbaum, who was a university professor at York University. And he wrote, and I know this stuff because I infiltrated various groups, a lot of dangerous stuff. And I had a signed copy of the book. So he was a history professor at York University. And he wrote a historical account, according to him, of Slovakia during World War II. And in the book, he justified the anti-Jewish legislation that was passed by the pro-Nazi, headed by Joseph Tiso government. Joseph Tiso, who was a Catholic priest, he was hung at Nuremberg for his part in the Holocaust. But so in the book, one of the books, I had two books that he wrote. In one of the books, he justified looking at the law that came into being in Slovakia, where they looked at what the population of the Jews were in Slovakia and how Jews are being represented in the economy and universities, as doctors, as lawyers, so on and so forth. And he justified that the government nationalized, and this was done in Nazi Germany and all the Nazi occupied areas of Europe, that those governments nationalized Jewish properties and Jewish assets and said, if you only represent, just throw a figure, 5% of the population, and you are involved in 20% of what have you, it's got to be rolled back. And that's what happened. And also the deportations to the camps took place. But that's what that type of thinking is. When Richard Spencer says Jews are overrepresented in many fields, that's dangerous talk. And he's pretty slick, and he doesn't come across as somebody who rants and raves or anything like that. But what he represents is extremely dangerous. And it's to the credit of the news anchor in Israel that he got that out of him. So people could see what he's about and what the threat is, because some people will go for that. Especially if there's, God forbid, an economic collapse of some sort. People go for extremist groups and extremist political parties. And it could happen. So you had in Charlottesville, you had on the one side the Nazis and white supremacists, and you had other people that just came there for the monuments, but the police just lumped, from what I understand, everybody together. And you had on the other side Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Antifa in Canada, I've witnessed, are very involved with the BDS. Extremely involved with the BDS. In fact, a year ago, we met up with Antifa in Montreal. JDL wanted to protest against what was called the Social Forum, where they gave platforms for nothing but vile anti-Semitism and calls for the elimination of Israel. And we went there to protest the Social Forum because they're receiving all kinds of funds from the government to point that out. And Antifa met us there. And the chants were, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. In other words, no Israel. From the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, only Palestine, no Israel. No two-state solution, no negotiation, no anything. Black Lives Matter is a little different. Black Lives Matter have stated clearly, and you could look it up, it's very easy to find. They have stated very clear, they've made a clear statement, that Zionism is equal to white supremacy and Nazism. So if you want to oppose the Nazis in Charlottesville, who do you stand with? Well, I'll answer that. According to Haaretz newspaper in Israel, there were some Jews who showed up. You had a rabbi, in quotations, from a group called Tenuah. He showed up. You had some Jewish youth from an organization called If Not Now. Now, If Not Now, we saw them in Washington, D.C. If Not Now organized a protest against the AIPAC conference in Washington, D.C. And they blocked the entrances, so the thousands of people who wanted to attend the AIPAC conference couldn't get in. There had to be a diversion how they could get in, some other way across the road, through a maze, through some hotel, and over a bridge. If Not Now, they say they're against the occupation, and they say the occupation started in '67. That's what they say. If you go to their sites and you follow all the chatting going back and forth, you have people correcting them all the time. No, you're wrong. The occupation started in '48. In '48, not '67. So that's their fan base. And they're used to embarrass the Jewish community. Look at these Jews. They came out, they support us. Tenuah, exactly the same thing. If you would show up to Charlottesville with an Israeli flag, I would put money down that the Black Lives Matter and the Antifa, who were there with baseball bats, they'll club you.
Yep.
They will club you, probably to death. It's that vile. And on the university campuses, who's preventing Israeli speakers, representatives from Israel, from speaking? Antifa/BDS. They're one in the same. So our community has to be completely aware of who those groups are. Now, in the middle, there are people. There are, on the conservative side, good people, and there are some people, maybe on the center left, but there's an aggressive movement from Antifa and their associates to take over. Just consider for a moment the Democratic National Convention that occurred in the United States, the most recent one. PLO flags were waved throughout the convention. People who want to lead the Democratic Party now have strong associations and ties with the BDS. Ellison's an example. Outside the Democratic National Convention, Israeli flags were burned. These people are not our friends at all. And the sooner we recognize that, the better. And somehow the media has not focused on the hate from that side. And it's a hate that I would compare to the Nazis. I would compare it to the Nazis. I have no problem making that comparison. They want no Jewish state. How would they go about having no Jewish state? They support Hamas and Hezbollah. They lobby governments, Western governments, to delist from the terror list Hamas and Hezbollah in order to justify whatever terrorist attacks happen against Jews and against others. Against others. You just heard the attack in Barcelona? A lone wolf. Is he motivated by any ideology? Is there any radical Islamic connection to it? Well, absolutely, but is the media going to call them out? No. So we have to continue to speak the truth, to speak the emes. It's an enormous battle. And unfortunately, the government we have right now is no comparison to the previous government we had, headed by Stephen Harper. No comparison. You have government ministers who are in favor of radical Islam. We have Jewish leaders who are extremely weak, falling for this. There are Islamic, respectable organizations that are very involved with Al-Quds Day. We have Jewish leaders meeting with some of these leaders, and they have no problem with that. Such meetings, I would say, are comparable to meeting with Nazis. They want exactly the same thing. It might be in stages, or however it will be. But, I mean, the nightmarish scenario, if Israel were to vacate the Golan Heights, for instance, and give over that territory to the fan base of Antifa, that the Jews living in the north, which is basic weapons, would be annihilated. God forbid. So the challenge is there, and we have to, we got a lot of work to do. There's no question about it. Any questions? Yes.
A few questions. So one of the things, some of the things I'm reading say about Charlottesville is there's a bit of a setup. They say that the Nazi side is obviously abhorrent to everybody, and they're not part of any party, there aren't anything,
Yeah.
they're really negligible. But the only reason they're in the public arena at all is because the media on the left build them up, so it's like they can create an enemy.
Okay.
And the big problem is, of course, the left side, because they are not negligible. They're very large. And also, you may have heard that the head of the Nazi group was somebody named Jason Kessler, who was from Obama supporter from Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, I read stuff like that. Right. Listen, you never know. You don't know who's an agent provocateur or whatever, but people did show up. And the problem is that some of these Nazis, if you ignore them, they're working hard to become part of various other groups. Thank you. Various other groups, and change policies in these groups. So they can't be ignored. They're there.
You wouldn't dismiss them and say.
I wouldn't dismiss them. I've spent years researching them before, and I've pretty much ignored them for the past at least few years, thinking that it's just totally negligible. But when you do see that there was a gathering, enough people there who believed in Nazism.
The people you mentioned, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, like they're not only large, they get millions of dollars from all these respectable groups and foundations.
You're talking about Antifa? You're talking about Antifa or on the left or?
Black Lives Matter for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. No, I know, but I'm not discounting the problem of Nazis. I will, we'll spend some energies focusing on them, but we're certainly not taking our eyes off the threat of the Antifa, BDS, Black Lives Matter left.
Mayor, can you comment on the anti-immigration rally in Quebec recently? It got a little bit violent.
Yeah, I don't have enough information on that right now. But
I have a comment regarding the Barcelona attack, terrorist attack.
Yep.
I received actually the Spanish media, I don't know about the left wing, I don't know, but they stated that these terrorists said that terrorist attack was against the Jews and the Crusades, basically the infidels. So that's what they're doing. But here in North America, they're not saying anything. I bought the National Post. So excited, I'm going to read something. It was what?
Right.
They said, and the men kill all these people, the men. There is a terrorist attack.
Right. That's the problem.
It's so unfair and so terrible that the North American
Fake news.
media, is that way, hiding all the facts.
Absolutely.
And everyone
Portugal, by the way, it is a long-time stronghold of the Templars. There's a Templar church there with a synagogue, and it's completely restored, beautiful vacation spot, very nice.
Okay, go ahead.
No, but this is a different story.
Yep. Go ahead.
The three attacks on the Markham schools with putting
Swastikas and that?
Yeah.
On the schools
Is
of
that
Markham.
something we watch?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm taking notice of that. That was reported a little bit in the media. I saw, but it's something we're looking into. Yeah. Yes.
I'm wondering if you comment on Boston, what happened? It wasn't clear to me whether the original free speech demonstrators were like 40 people. Were they really part of the Nazis, or were they?
You know what? I don't think so. I don't think so. They're for the monuments. I did a little bit of research on them. They swear up and down they detest the Nazis.
So the whole counter demonstration with 40,000
are calling them
people,
Nazis.
They called them, and I saw these friends of our family on Facebook.
Yep.
They were there and they were kumbaya about how all the good people were there. There were Muslims, black and white, and everybody was doing this to kill the Nazis, or to stop the Nazis. And I wasn't sure. Really, they were stopping free speech. They were proving the point of the.
That's right. Listen, there was a couple of vids that I saw that you had, for instance, you had some guy who went there with an Israeli flag over him. It was a short clip, but showed him really being harassed and pushed around. There was another case of a woman that had an American flag wrapped around her. and she was dragged.
Right.
Yeah.
An older woman or something.
Yeah, she was dragged. So it's very vicious. What's going on? Anyone else? Well, I think we covered it
Before
all.
they killed the suicide, the guy who drove the van in Charlottesville, they did say that he said Allah Akbar before I think he was shot.
Oh, the guy in Barcelona, you mean?
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Barcelona.
The guy in Charlottesville. You know what? I'm not, I've been looking at video. I'm not defending the guy or anything, but, and obviously if that's his intention to ram people down, then he's going to throw the book at the guy and everything. But, I did see before he reversed that people were converging on his car, just bashing with baseball bats, attacking. And I saw a clip that, when he was moving forward, prior that his car was under attack. So I don't know if he was fleeing. I'm just putting my mind in thinking about a 20-year-old. That's what he is, a 20-year-old. If under attack and fleeing, I don't know. And if that's the case, if that is the case, then you'd have to draw a conclusion that the Black Lives Matter and Antifa are culpable also in that, because they came dressed, ready to fight, and they were with Molotov cocktails, and it was a mess. And they hate our guts too. The Black Lives Matter Antifa crowd, no question about it. Yes.
What about another protest that's coming up on Yom Kippur?
Protest coming up on Yom Kippur. Where?
U.S. cancel. The one in your country in the U.S.
Yeah, they're talking about.
Everyone protested against.
Well, in the United States, there's something on the left. I just saw something about that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. They don't include Jews or Israel in their events. They do it on Yom Kippur, which speaks volumes. Okay, so there still is a lot of food. There's a cake at the back too. It's
Should we sing happy birthday to you?
Can I ask something? Just 1 second. At Bethsaida,
Yep.
there was one of the rabbis read an email or something that another rabbi from Stannisville sent
Right.
to him
Right.
with the shul in that town. They have KKK in front of the shul waiting for people coming out and threatened them with burn the church and also the Torah scroll. So they moved the Torah scroll out of the building, but they continue with the service.
Right.
People have to live outside. They asked it's the same police to protect them. They were declined.
Right.
So they have to hire a security guard,
Yeah.
and some Spanish or Hispanic policemen volunteered to protect them.
And where
so
was-
all the people who left from outside, like at the back of the shore. You know,
Where?
like
Charlottesville shul.
Yeah.
Right, I know about that. Yeah.
Charlottesville,
Right.
but they might
where
have.
did it come from?
They-
Because they are the topics today. What else?
Right.
It's a shul in that town.
Right.
That was threatened by KKK. and
Right,
KKK
right.
was waiting
Yep,
for people
I know.
coming out, and they have machine guns.
Right.
So they have to leave at the back.
I
so
read
they're
that.
Afraid.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Listen.
Yes, crazy.
That's why we gotta be strong. Okay. Thank you very much. Eat. There still is food, and there's a cake. Thank you. Yes.
But it,